Last time we spoke, 9 weeks ago, the biggest difference is probably the fact that we've both got our hair trimmed now. So we're fairly presentable for this video. But the last time we spoke was the 20th of May, which really doesn't seem that long ago. But at the same time, 9 weeks is a fairly long time. Where is the football club at now, just sort of from a broader point of view?
I think we're in a good place. We've made the most of kind of the time that we had. We discussed last time a lot of kind of planning and stuff coming into play. A lot of that's kind of come through to fruition a little bit. We're certainly a lot further on kind of along the COVID kind of journey, I guess. So we know a lot more. But again, equally, we're in a similar place in terms of we don't have any real definitive kind of knowledge around the start of the season or kind of what that might look like. So I'd say there's there's still a lot of unknowns from where we're at.
What's the primary objective? Because last time we spoke, as I said now, it was sort of this idea of planning for the worst, because the 20th of May was a fairly uncertain time, wasn't it? I say uncertain, we were pretty deep into lockdown, and now that's easing. I mean, today it was announced that that's sort of being slowed down a bit. So that throws another spanner into the works, doesn't it? In terms of this idea of sort of society and the economy ticking over, and obviously Dereham Town is affected by that. Has the objective changed in general? Is it more progressive now rather than focusing on survival?
Yeah, a little bit. I think we were never, I can't remember where we were at last time. I think, the worst was always going to be survive. And I think we're kind of through that now in terms of structurally. We looked at the staffing set up. Aldiss Park is essentially shut down. So we've reduced all of those costs as much as we can.
Yeah.
So the foundations have probably been done, I think, and a lot of the work we've probably done over the last couple of months, which has almost been quite nice, has shifted towards the future. So there's been a lot of conversations, particularly kind of with you guys, in terms of rebranding the ground signage, whilst also looking at that fan engagement and that fan experience, and looking at that journey almost as a customer from the moment you come through the gates to the moment you leave, and making sure we maximise kind of the experience at every single opportunity. So, we're still got to be concerned about the day-to-day and where we're at, and making sure that our house is in order. But all of this time has certainly now moved through and has allowed us to plan and look longer term. And I think when we chatted last time, one of the things we were looking to do was plan right down the line. So, that 3-year kind of period of, where are we going and how are we getting there in a real simple format, we've almost been able to substantiate that a little bit. So whether that be even sponsorship, we're built on those packages in terms of what is available, what has value, what is the value, what businesses might that be applicable to. So we've really kind of built the foundations all the way through. So, I think a nice combination of both in answer to the question.
I think this time has been a blessing. We've said this amongst ourselves, haven't we? Sort of between me and Jordan, the idea that this time off is it's not good. It's not good. It's not healthy for the football club, really. But at the same time, you've got to play the hand you're dealt with. And for us, that's been a lot of time, which is good because it means that me and Jordan, for example, can sit down and sort of design stuff, which is quite fun. And speaking of that, I think the best way to approach the rest of this chat is breaking down the changes in terms of what you see at Aldiss Park next season, sponsorship, training, so the actual first team and stuff like that. And I want to start with Aldiss Park. Now, the first thing that we want to do, ignoring COVID, this was something we wanted to do anyway, wasn't it? In terms of this idea of making Aldiss Park sort of have a new, fresh look. Where are we at with that then? What's your sort of message to the Dereham fans in terms of what they could expect to see when they come to, or when they're eventually led back into Aldiss Park?
So I think to touch on that, I think one of the things that's important is you answered in terms of that survival question kind of previously. And I think when we were talking before, we discussed perhaps some past decisions from the football club. And I think actually historically, I think the football club has always focused on survival, and potentially rightfully so during the time. The reason for that would be down to them at the time. But, that survival was literally kind of just getting through. And credit to them in terms of they did that. What we're doing now is looking further. So it needs to be an enjoyable experience. It needs to be a brand. It needs to be somewhere that you want to bring your family, that you want to come and, kind of do whatever you want to do, have a beer, watch football, whatever on a Saturday afternoon. So for us, in terms of that, we want to make Aldiss Park feel like home. We're a football club first and foremost. And I think if you you look at the foundations and you look at everything in place. I think we've got everything you could ever wish for as a football club, and there's something we keep saying. But I think one of the things from myself is you could stand in the middle of the pitch at Aldiss Park and potentially wouldn't really know where you are. If you removed a couple of signs which said Dereham Town, you wouldn't really know where that was. So I think we needed to create a bit of an identity. You guys, we've created kind of some hashtags and a bit of branding and some colours and stuff that's coming out from that. And I think we want to feel that at the ground. So, we're looking at flags to drape at the back of the stand. We're painting the fence. So really simple thing, but it's black and be strong in colour, which will make a huge difference. We're looking at customer experience. So as you come through the turnstile, directional arrows of where to go for the bar, and simple things like that. So, for us, I think it's a broad spectrum in answer in terms of we want Dereham fans in particular to make it feel like home. We want it to look and feel like Dereham Town Football Club, and we want anyone that arrives to feel that as well. And again, it's something that we've had to do in terms of really move that standard. And we discussed culture a lot last time. A lot of those things through. But again, it's something that I'm really excited by. What you guys are producing is really exciting, and I've got no doubt the fans will appreciate it and kind of certainly notice the difference.
I think the key word there is identity. I think certainly me and Jordan and Rob, before we came to the club, there was sort of that lack of visual identity, sort of going to Aldiss Park. And you obviously know where you are, but at the same time, there wasn't something you could look at other than sort of the 11 players playing in black and white on the pitch and sort of know where you are. And I think that's sort of our objective. As you mentioned, these flags, which we'll get onto in a minute in terms of one of the particular flag designs that we're going to talk about. But the signs as well, they're so important, aren't they? Because it's sort of a visual element. And that's something we can build right now. Whereas the idea of culture probably comes a bit further down the line because of fans. They're the people who build the culture. This idea is just sort of supporting the team through thick and thin. That is the intended culture, really, isn't it? And you need fans to do that. But this visual thing, I don't know what word to use, that Aldiss Park will become, hopefully will be that sooner rather than later term thing. But speaking of visual things, flags, I can't wait to see them next season. They'll be the proper class. Obviously, we have a good example in Norwich City at the moment, and you have the big yellow wall in the Barclay. We're going to recreate that, aren't we? The cemetery end at Aldiss Park have a big black and white wall.
But it's exactly that, mate. Exactly that in terms of like the identity. I think with identity goes belonging, and people long to be a part of something, and that's what we want. We talk about a journey a lot. We talk about again that plan and where we're going, and we want people to come on that journey kind of with us. And you're only going to do that, and you get that feeling of where you want to go and have a couple of beers and watch your side lose 3-0 if you're a part of it and you belong to it. So actually what we want to see is the fans in shirts. We want to see black and white shirts everywhere to then support the branding that we're putting in. We want to see the scarves everywhere to support what we're putting in. So I think there's kind of two levels to that culture. And actually we discussed it again in terms of the foundation work that we put in place. A lot of those things in terms of our identity, we're almost pretty much there now. If we had to describe the club in what would be like that elevator pitch now, I think 9 people out of 10 certainly within the club would get it now. So whether that's through the academy and us producing our players and everything that comes with that on the pitch and what Gus and Ollie have produced, I think people get it. The family club and again we'll come on to it I'm sure in a bit, but like the family kind of enclosure type corner that we're trying to put into place again. People get it. There's lots of partnerships that we're working on. We want to be a community club. We're now working with Mark and the youth to embed that all the way through. So, for me, I think it is completely that, as we just said, in terms of identity, but I think it is that belonging and creating that community that people are a part of and most importantly, proud of.
You mentioned sort of experiencing this together, which I think links perfectly to sort of FC Porto and the shenanigans that's going on there. It's such a beautiful thing, isn't it? Like only football could bring someone from Portugal and someone from Dereham in Norfolk together. It's utterly bizarre, but we did release our design the day of filming this. That is, of course, our sort of, what was it, Magpies, Dragons partnership, friendship, whatever you want to call it, flag. On a wider point, what do you, as Dereham Town's chairman, what do you want from that? Is it just is it social media interaction, or do you want something more?
No, I think it's I think it almost follows what we were just saying in terms of that belonging. I think again it's something if you're a Dereham fan and you've almost got your affiliation with FC Porto. It's insane. And there's pictures come through from the season, wasn't there? There's a couple of the Dereham fans went out to watch FC Porto in their stadium in their Dereham shirt. Obviously, we're seeing a couple of fans groups from Porto with their flags and the Dereham shirts and scarves and stuff. And I don't think there's anything necessarily manufactured. We were approached by, I think it's like FC Porto of London or something, a fans group last summer when it came out about a friendly. And obviously this summer wouldn't allow, but I think there's something there. So for us, I think the engagement stuff online is great. I think it'd be really nice if we can solidify that a little bit, and whether there was an annual game to almost kind of relay back to it or something would be nice. But it's almost just a bit of fun, and I think it's great. Like you said, there's nothing else other than football would create that link or that relationship, is there?
It is utterly bizarre. It's just lovely to watch as well. Like I still find it mesmerizing. Like that was our baptism of fire at Dereham Town, wasn't it? It was literally the first day of filming for the documentary. And we get Jake. Go on.
There's definitely no link there, is there, between you having to turn up at a committee meeting and give back your social media interaction and a nice little post, but FC Porto coming out to get some extra engagement. There's definitely no link there, is there?
Oh, it's a beautiful thing. That's all I'll say. It is a truly beautiful thing. But yeah, it was the first day, wasn't it? It's just like, Christ, this is a sign of things to come at the football club. Genuinely, this idea of promise. But I think we'll move on from Porto to. I think we'll finish on Aldiss Park specifically in terms of the pitch work, because the pitch is looking pretty fruity at the moment. Is there anything more to add to that?
No. So again, we've probably as a football club not invested what we perhaps should have for various reasons over the years. So I think I remember we discussed last time. The groundsman's now got, which came in at the back end of last season, new equipment to go and work on that pitch. We invested heavily in seeding, and we've got that pitch kind of prepped right. So I think it's going to take a little bit of time to get it to where we want it to be. But we're certainly going to invest this year and make it the best we can. And as we know, and we'll probably get onto it in a bit, there's going to be extra games on that pitch this season. So we need to make sure that we're supporting that and making sure it's right. But no, in terms of Aldiss Park, again, internally, we're looking at kind of moving through that brand. So hopefully, when we're back and the fans are back, they'll see something real headline and they'll feel the difference. And then I think it's important to remember this is part of a longer term journey as well. So there will be that continual improvement over the next 3, 6 months, 9 months, and then longer beyond that.
I think we'll finish up on sort of playing, because that's a good place to end, because there's a lot to say about that now, especially considering the last time we spoke, it was all up in the air, wasn't it? Whereas now there's a bit more certainty, pre-season's been confirmed, etc. But we'll finish on that. The last thing I want to talk about before we get onto the actual football is sponsorship. Now, there's a little bit of a taboo around sponsorship, isn't there? In terms of this idea that, it's the same for any team at this level. When someone puts in a sponsor, the general idea is that you do that to advertise your business, to get more business from it. I sort of want to, I think tackle's the wrong word, but maybe tackle it in terms of this idea of it's more than that. It's about supporting the football club. And there's no better person to ask this question to, in terms of this idea of how do you view sponsors from the view of a chairman? Because you're the guy who sees the impact of it, and I think there is this general idea that it is about supporting the football club more so than looking at it from a business point of view, especially during these tough times. And we're fortunate enough to have fans who are willing to make GoFundMe pages. Like it's mad, isn't it? We're so grateful for it. But from the chairman's point of view, how do you view a sponsorship, and how important are they to the club?
I think just firstly on that GoFundMe page, I think that's obviously come out in the last couple of days, and we said last time we were conscious as a football club to get our house in order, and we didn't go out begging, and that was a real conscious decision to do that. I think that the fact that the fans have gone and done that themselves is incredible and testament to them, and shows exactly where we're at as a football club and the people that we have involved. So a huge thank you to them for that, and it will make a massive difference, whatever is raised. In terms of sponsorship, I guess there's almost two views. I think. Again, what we've worked hard on is, I think historically there was an element where it almost was a little bit of kind of charitable donation, if you like, sponsorship. And it was everything you've just said. And I almost view it a little bit differently. I think we're a massive football club. I think we've got huge potential. I think we've got really good people involved. And for me personally, for our football club, I'm really excited about where we're going and where we can take it. So what we've had to build within our sponsorship package and the offering, if you like, is value. You mentioned times are tough, So, you know, as my business, you'd be expecting some return on that. So we've kind of looked in real detail at what we can offer sponsors, what the value is, what the return is on it. So we're now looking at essentially main partners. So main partners is main stand sponsor, is ground sponsor, is shirt sponsor, and so on. And they'll almost have a really bespoke package. And I would absolutely say to anyone that there is a return on investment for that. So whether that's brand awareness, whether that's a bit of client engagement, bringing them to some games, whatever that may be, there's some real value to that. I think there's an element of football, of course, within it, and you know, people almost want to follow their journey. And you know, we discussed again last time about people forgetting the standard we're at, but it's quite conceivable that we could have a lovely little FA Cup draw and end up on BBC like Malden were, live on a Friday night at 7:30, or something that sponsorship. There's an absolute snip, and there's incredible value. So you need a little bit of football and behind the journey on we're going on. But I think it's our duty to add value, and we've got to treat them as customers and look after them and make sure the experience is right and the quality is right to get there. I think the other end is things such as player sponsors or pitch side boards, or you know, elements like that where you know you are relying a little bit on the town to come and get behind it and support it and work with us on that, and that would be a bit harder to say there was any return on it. You know, there's a little bit of value, I guess, in terms of brand awareness, but it's a combination. I think, you know, we need to add value, and equally, the more people we get into the ground, the more benefit that sponsorship is. The more people that we engage with on social media, the more benefit that sponsorship is. The more stories we create and the more we're in the press, the more value there is to that sponsorship. So, you know, we have a duty to work with that and then work with those customers, if you like.
I think the main intention, to put it briefly, is we want to promote this idea that Dereham Town is a club worth sponsoring and supporting. I think I used the word supporting instead. The idea of, say, going around the town and being like, can you help us out a bit, you know, get behind us, is well and good saying that, but these changes that have been made are being made, they're part of making a club that is just worth being sponsored and supported. Now, I'm not saying it wasn't before we started this revolution at the club, but our goal, there's no hiding from it, is to make Dereham Town Football Club a club that the town, the county is proud to sort of be a part of and represent, etc. But I think that's everything for sponsorship, to be honest with you. That is just the general message in terms of this idea that supporting the club is worth it. Now, being a football fan myself, and I'm sure you'll say the same, it is of paramount importance that you come together and support your local team in whatever way you can, whether that's literally just turning up and paying our very cheap ticket prices to watch a game of football, or sponsoring a player, sponsoring the main stand, something like that. You know, there's variables, there's levels to actually supporting the club. But we'll get on to the interesting stuff now for the fans, which is football. Now, as I said earlier, the last time we spoke, we didn't know when it was coming back, and there was concern that there wouldn't be any football back until the new year, which would have been devastating for the football club, not just our football club, but every football club at this level, whether that means the club sort of disbands and liquidates, whatever, or if it just takes a big hit. Now, the easing of lockdown and sort of more rules added, however you want to phrase it, means that we can complete a pre-season, and it is of paramount importance that, you know, it's a pre-season to be completed behind closed doors, as we mentioned on our Twitter. But how what's been the process from your point of view in terms of bringing football back? Because what did it start with? It started with what was it, training, wasn't it? But what's been the process for you then?
So you had, from us as a football club, so something that Gus, obviously, AD, from a physio's perspective, and then Ben, through secretary, has taken a lead on and done an incredible job. So you're right, in terms of football came back, I think it was training in groups of 4, 5, 6, might have been the number at the time. So Gus had the lads doing some small kind of work, just ticking over, really, shooting for strikers or whatever. That then changed to the group work, and we had the start date for the season come into play. So I think the lads last week started what would have been the first week of pre-season, if you like. And now we're leading in towards friendly starting next week for us. So it's difficult, it's different. You know, we're now working through risk assessments and things like that in terms of how the players are arriving to the game, how they're getting changed, who's sanitising and cleaning what at what point. So there's lots to it. It's a real strange way to look at football, if I'm honest, particularly as a football fan. But equally, I think when we last chatted, would have given our right arm to be in a position where there was a football game being played. So, you know, I think we're grateful for where we're at. It just looks very, very different. So, you pre-season is kind of set, and that will happen. Obviously, the league has given our start date. I think it's the 19th of September, with the FA Cup due to start the week, potentially for us the week prior to that. But again, our league have kind of categorically said that we won't be playing behind closed doors because it's not financially beneficial to anyone, as we discussed last time. Yet by all accounts, there's no fans in stadiums potentially as it stands at this time until October. And as you say, the announcements yesterday, whenever it was, that came out again about the trial at Goodwood and such like has now been postponed and put back for a couple of weeks. So what that actually looks like, we still don't really know, I guess. But it's certainly different, mate. Really, really different.
We're not at the forest yet is an important message. But as you said, we would have given our right arm, left leg to be in a position where a ball is going to get kicked. And I think that's going to be very, very important. Now, in terms of my role, Jordan's role, Rob's role, we'll do our best to sort of provide the regular content you'd get on a match day, so you get that feeling back, because we know what it's like, don't we? We're Norwich City fans. For as fun as that is, we miss it, don't we? We miss going to the football. We miss going to watch Dereham play. We miss sort of being involved, etc. And we'll do our best to sort of provide a bit of routine back to life, because that's what life revolves around, isn't it? Routine, and this idea of certainty. And we'll do our best to sort of replicate that as best we can in the circumstance. Now, you mentioned safely returning to football. Is that an easy thing to do on, say, a match day? Because in training it is, because it's a group, a max of 20 people in sort of separated areas, etc. Is that an easy thing to do on a match day, for example, when the squad sizes are a lot bigger?
Well, I think it's from what we've gone through now. Like I said, Ben's worked really hard on the risk assessments, which outlines pretty much all of it, and then there's processes and procedures that underpin that. So for us, I'm fairly confident that it's going to be fairly simple. So whether that's players are going to get temp checked on the way in, there'll be one-way systems in. Our clubhouse will still be shut because we're not open to fans. Change rooms will be changed at intervals, and the minimum, I think we're putting 5 people or something like that at any time. Dugouts will be the same as you've seen in the Premier League, well, ish, in terms of they'll be spaced out down the touchline on chairs. It's relative. It depends how you look at it. When you break it down, it's quite simple. It's just making sure we adhere to it. So breaks in play, there'll be clean and sanitising of goalposts, flags, whatever. Multi-ball system. There's a whole kind of rough things that will be kind of followed through, but the work again is done in what Ben's been doing with risk assessments and everything. Once that's in place and working alongside AD and our guys, we've got some good people back again now, so we've got no doubt that we'll manage it fine.
In terms of sort of moving away from that now, we found out, was it today we found out about the Senior Cup, or was it yesterday?
I think it was today.
Oh, okay. The tweet came out today, but it's tragic for us, isn't it? Because it was a chance for us to win the trophy again, but it's an even bigger tragedy for a team like UEA, who going into the competition were underdogs, weren't they? And it's a sad thing for both clubs. But how gutted are you that we're going to miss out on that day at Carrow Road and the potential to lift another trophy?
I think it's one of those for the football club of our size. I think it's a day for the fans and a day for the players and management team and community volunteers, everyone. It's a nice day out. So the game wasn't going to happen at Carrow Road, as we discussed last time. If it did go ahead, it was never going to happen there. And I can completely understand why they've done what they've done. So it's something we'll just have to live by and get on with it. But yeah, as you say, for someone like UEA, who and the results that they'd had on the way to get to the final, is a real shame. But again, we said last time that there's lots of hard luck stories and molded in our league and everything. So I think again, there's more important things to worry about, and I think it's working on getting back properly.
Yeah, I suppose the main idea is that it's just sort of safety is the number one priority. And I'm sure UEA, for example, can dig in and challenge again next year. Now, what's the intention from your point of view in terms of maybe being a fan of football, maybe just being the chairman, but in terms of next season, so the league, what are you looking for from the season? Now, I don't mean like safety or fans in the ground. I mean like as in like the outcome of the season. What are you hoping for?
From a football perspective?
Yeah.
I think that's Gus as well. I think if you look at it in terms of he's mentioned a lot in terms of the squad that he's got and that he's built. and even at the end of, or when the season ended, it was all about retention of those bodies. We've managed to do that. He's added one or two. There's still one or two that he's looking at. But the squad's young. If you look at, again, as Gus has discussed in terms of the results that came through last season, we were right there. Were we 8th, I think, when it finished? I think a word we're using throughout the club is that continual improvement. We always want to be better tomorrow than we are today. So you'd want better than 8th would be lovely. But again, the thing with the league is there's some big clubs and someone's always having a go. So I don't think from a footballing side, I know it's a bit of a cop-out, I don't think we can really say kind of where we're going. We know how Gus and Ollie want to play. We know the players that are involved. We know it's exciting football, and, I think anything can happen. So, for me, again, a boring answer. For me, it's about the partnerships that we're building. They're the things we discussed last time, having the whole kind of put on everything. I think we're in a good place to pick that up. So for me, I'm more concerned about when we can get people into the ground and when we can do the right things and we can grow all of those elements through. I'm sure we're going to talk about it in a minute. There's a couple of really exciting partnerships that we've been working on, and these things don't happen overnight. So, for me, it's on that side. But footballing can be anything. I think, I don't think we'd swap our squad for too many in the league. That's for sure.
Do you know what? That's an answer I expected. I just wanted to throw that curveball at you on camera and see what you'd say. See if the football manager side of you would come out and be like, "Bam, playoffs." But that's totally fair enough. But I think the last thing I'm going to ask you is what I ask everyone that I speak to on this channel. I've now realised right now, which is, what is your sort of message to the fans at this point? Because the last time we spoke, there was so much uncertainty, whereas now there's a bit more of direction. But what's your sort of message to the fans?
I think it's the same as kind of has always been. I think it's their football club. It's vitally important that they come with us on this journey. We've got a bit of a job to do to make sure we communicate what that journey is almost, so they get it. And they then want to be a part of it, and then we're back to identity and belonging and all of those things. And equally to look at the influence they can make. So, we mentioned the fans and the GoFundMe page, and that's a really kind, great initiative that someone's gone and set up. But it's happened because someone's gone and set it up. So, we discussed before whether that's bringing somebody, else into the ground, or 200 club tickets, or, all of these things make a real difference. So, I'm really proud of where we're at. I'm really proud of the people that we've got involved at the football club. And I think we're in a really, really good place. I'm really excited for the next 2 or 3 years. And I think it is that sort of period of time that we need to look at. And if you look, can we talk about those partnerships? Yeah. All right. So if you look, so we're now going to come out kind of with the news that, we're going to have UEA playing at Aldiss Park next season. They're going to have the home games there, which is a really exciting partnership for us and something that's been worked on for quite some time. There's been links previously with Deza and the academy and lads going through to the UEA. Creates loads of opportunities that side. But just as a partnership is a really strong one to be sitting alongside the UEA brand. So that's something that's really exciting for us. There's some news that's going to come out tomorrow in terms of the point of us filming this, in terms of we're going to have our own cheerleading squad for next season. So off the back of the Swan and Morley Rockets coming down, we're now going to, or those people are now going to create the Dereham Town Magpies, which again is fantastic and really incredible for that community. So, we are working hard and looking at all of these avenues to create kind of partnerships within the community and give people that reason to come down and be proud of what we're doing. But again, the fans need to trust us and believe in what we're doing, and rest assured that there's a lot of people working really, really hard to make that football club the best it can be.
I think the important message to take from that is we are working hard, aren't we, behind the scenes? I say you're doing a hell of a job. And the important thing to do is to look at the Twitter, website, Instagram, whatever, because that is where you'll find all these updates. Ash, that's probably everything. I'm sure we'll catch up very, very soon. But yeah, that is just about everything from us.